in faith, and your heart shall remain filled with joy, in harmony with our Father's laws.
We have become spiritists, evolving always, and opening today's 12 continuous hours of service, welcoming both realms in this single opportunity of revisiting the deep meaning of our lives. Life on earth has been a blessing, much learning, and yet much more to be unfolded. And amongst the many lessons, we've come to the realization that the main learning is the learning to love. Not this terrestrial love we have come to know, that is conditioned to the fulfillment of our whims. That has been leading us to illusions and frustrations, depressions and anxieties. Through the teachings of Spiritism, we've come to know that we are daily invited to a greater love, the unconditional love. A love that soothes our souls and yet corrects us. A love that encourages us and yet it may say no to us at times when we allow old conditionings to take place. Through these years, studying and practicing Spiritism, we have been exposed to these feelings of unconditional love from you. Being fully aware of the messengers you send every day to our daily lives. who love us, who educate us in your name and love. Today, we want to renew our commitment to being conscious co-creators of yours on earth, while also committing ourselves to sharing these teachings that have been changing our lives each and every day. In spite of its universality, Spiritism is unique in its framework, opening the doors of our reasoning and aligning it with faith. No longer we feel conflicted for loving you and reasoning your existence. On the contrary, we feel greater love and admiration for learning that worshiping you is not a mere ritual any longer, but the only way through which we can actually fulfill our tasks and our roles on earth in harmony with your design. And since you transplanted us for a renewed reincarnation in this blessed lands of the United States of America, the brain of the world, full of potential, and yet convulsing in conflicts, we pray that we can be microscopically helpful, reaching out to each other human cell in this brain, stimulating new health, oxygenizing the minds and the hearts, so we can together fulfill our role in harmonizing with the world in bonds of true friendship. We bow our heads to you in deep gratitude for the opportunity of this day, of these years, and the beauty of our progress to the infinite. Oh God, we feel your embrace, and we thank you for this therapeutic opportunity today and always. And so be it. Sienna, it's already here handy. Okay. So this is not an event. Unlike many years we've done events, the spirits decided to invite us to 12 hours of service. And as they said recently, it's not a poetic way of doing it. It's not like, oh, 12 hours of service for 12 years just to rhyme. You say, no, because when we open continuously for that opportunity of service two realms are being benefited. Majority of the inhabitants of the earth are discarnated. And we as spiritists, we're invited daily to cherishing this awareness that wherever we go, majority is still discarnated. And of these 2/3 of the inhabitants of the earth who are still discarnated, 1/3 of the 2/3 is more evolved than us. The other 2/3 are yet at our level. So a lot of work in awareness. We begin today with the story of the one who began it all. Spiritism didn't begin with Kardec per se. It began with the Master who was sent to the earth to lead our lives, to guide us. So that's why the mentors asked us to begin with the reminder that everything has started 2,000 years ago, more than 2,000 years ago already. In the book 2,000 years ago, many people think, why should I read this book? And the question is, why not? There are many new books coming up in Spiritism, and the question is, have you read the Foundation? Foundation is not only Kardec. All the books that were psychographed by Chico Xavier, 462, they are considered to be foundational. So, we need reincarnations to study them. And when people say, but have you read the latest by X author? I say, we respect it, but we haven't completed the basics. If the coming ones are more advanced, I'm not ready for them, because the foundation is yet to be discovered. Chico Xavier brought to us the instrument, bringing to us the full colors of the time in which the Master was on earth. Emmanuel, in this book 2,000 years ago, reveals to us features of the governor of the planet that are yet to be felt in order for us to understand. Of course, Emmanuel humbly discloses to us his shortcomings way back when. It's humbling for him to disclose, as the mentor of the medium, to disclose his shortcomings. It takes a whole lot of humility. So when people talk about Emmanuel, say, but Emmanuel was disciplinarian and he was like a general, I said, maybe we don't know Emmanuel enough. In all his books, he's poetic, he's loving, he's kind, and even in that life, he already displayed many features that you could understand why Master Jesus came so close to him with a specific reincarnatory plan for the time to join his team right away. In Emmanuel, we see ourselves. In the preface of this book, Emmanuel shows to us that his reality is much alike ours back then. He says in the preface, it's about envy, slander, his own words. Envy, slander, spite, competition, intrigues. And he says, this is still the reality to date, and will be for a while. And he shows to us the behind the scenes in some way, not completely, because probably we'll be scared to death if he really showed to us, like André Luiz, the ins and outs of the spirits that were following everybody. It would probably be worse than Halloween. Halloween could be funny, but there is Halloween that is not too funny, right? So we're talking about terror, and it's horror, and it's almost like a thriller. So they really avoid scaring us out, but they give us enough details to open our eyes and understand that our lives are not restricted only to our choices. We are intertwined with the lives of everybody whom we know and probably don't know that much. And probably those whom we don't know that much, but who knows, especially now that we have social media, they may be interfering in our lives more greatly than we imagine. And we often think that the closest one is the one that is disturbing us. Maybe somebody elsewhere, far away, is the one that is creating obstacles. But why? We're victims? No. So we see the spectrum, and that's where it all begins. In ancient Rome, much alike our modern Rome, our modern Roman Empire, filled with pride. We may have a main religion in the United States, Christian religion, though not official, and yet we still cultivate the worshipping of many gods, like the ancient Romans, the patricians, the pagans, as the Hebrews used to say. Many gods. Even people in many Christian religions nowadays, they rarely pray to God, they pray to Saint X, Saint Y. Is this a problem? No. But there is a moment in which we understand that there is only one source of power and everybody else is depending on it. I can call to Saint Michael and say, Saint Michael, please help me, but Saint Michael depends on God's organization. So we can cut it short and go straight. Cut the middleman. And sometimes say, Saint Michael, I pray to God, remember, put a word in for me. Right? That's our way of feeling it. Nowadays in Spiritism, we may not pray to saints, but we pray to superior spirits. It's not a problem, but just so we feel how 2,000 years later, we're so close to that reality. Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, Chico Xavier, Meimei, Sheila, and it's okay, we pray, we have their pictures all over. But we know that they are, though more evolved, they are limited to so many factors, and the main one, God's allowance. You see how from Publius Lentulus, the senator, to our present reality, we have evolved, but we still bargain with the gods. God, the only one, and the gods, the superior spirits. We still bargain. I will stop eating chocolate for a month. But remember, I need a job. Or that baby, or that something, I don't know. And there are people who still call the psychics to get to know of what's going to happen in their love life, in their work life. And they pay the psychics, and they enjoy talking to the psychics. But then they go home puzzled. Oh my gosh. Talk to people. You see, that's the reality. Christians, non-Christians, and spiritists as well. Enjoying the mystic side of life. We're still mystic. Is that a problem? No. But Spiritism calls us to another realization, to understand the dynamics. We no longer need to be blindfolded towards our cultivation of faith. Like our dear Publius Lentulus, who was there talking to his friend, best friend, Senator Flaminius, and saying, you know, Flaminius, our daughter's sick, Flavia, and we have to go to Jerusalem. The heirs may help her. But you know, a dream have been coming to me, and in that dream, I dream of another life and misdeeds, and I see Livia coming to me and inviting me to a new life, saying that in that life I will receive everything that I had as a senator in a previous life, because I was my great-grandfather, Publius Lentulus Sura, and I will be powerful, rich, have a family, but I'll be asked to renounce everything in the name of humility and fraternity. I don't understand it, Flaminius says. It can't be possible. He says, come here, I'm going to show you in a room. And he says, look at the statue of my great-grandfather. Oh yeah, you guys look alike. But Flaminius says, of course, you have the same blood, so of course you look alike in some way. It's understandable. No, but look at the handwriting, says Publius Lentulus. And Flaminius is astounded, like the similarity. Yeah, there must be something. But let's forget about it and drink some wine. Nowadays, more popular beer. Forget about it. You see, the warnings come. What do we get from this passage? That we're all being constantly reminded. So Freud was right when he said, pay attention to your dreams. Because in your dreams lie the core of your life. But don't call people to decipher your dream. Don't pay them, don't buy the books, because our inner dictionary has a meaning that is particular to us. A pen in my dictionary may not mean the same as a pen for somebody else's dictionary. So it is in our self-study that we'll get to know what that means. In this one, it was clear-cut, the call. But why didn't he embrace that call? Why didn't he embrace that call? Why? And simply said, well, I'm going to see how to trim my life around it. Culturally speaking, there is peer pressure. People talk about peer pressure as a contingency to adolescence, as if we adults feel no pressure regarding the people around us. We are still under the same social influence. But I'm a senator. What is that? Ego. No, but my title appreciated by everybody else. The main road that everybody walks. If I walk a different road, nobody knows. People are gonna think it's strange. Pause. Gratitude to those who came before us and had the courage to walk the less traveled road. Since ancient times, in all different cultures and countries, they had the courage to walk the less traveled road, and thanks to them, we have awareness of ourselves to levels unexpected if we depended only on ourselves. It's this social contribution. The first Christians. I'm restricting to Christianity, but we have to say it's beyond Christianity. It's this true sense of religiosity, connection with God. In all cultures, as Emmanuel says in the book On the Way to the Light, every religious path is blessed. If somebody says, I'm Muslim, God bless you. Thank God you are. I am Jewish, thank God you are. I am Hindu, thank God you are. I'm Catholic. I'm an evangelical. I am an atheist, I'm so sorry. You're missing a boat. We're coming at a time when people are proud to say they don't believe in it. And the disaster we're seeing in schools, in our workplaces that are becoming unbearable, stressful, creating anxiety and depression in people because we rebelliously do not want to subject ourselves any longer to God. Like toddlers, like children in their first years of infancy who claim, I want to do it by myself. Beautiful at their age, but spiritually, that doesn't help us. It's delaying our own progress because we will never be independent of God. Does that mean we need to enforce the worshiping of God in schools and in workplaces? No, because that doesn't come from the outside in. It's from the inside out. But we cannot be afraid of saying it, talking about it when people need it. If they don't need it, we respect. Or of cultivating it ourselves if we find that the whole doesn't. People need to respect both ways. If I sit it with Virginia's teacher to talk about her development, I need to be respected for saying we guide her in a religious way, and I need to be respected for it. And if the teacher says I don't know anything about it, I respect. We respect each other. But not saying it, not talking about it, not living it, especially in our homes, because somebody in our family doesn't agree, they need to respect both ways. Why didn't Publius Lentulus hear the call of his dreams and the evidence that he said he was telling his own best friend? I have evidence. Where is his own conviction the next minute? What blocked him from actually being coherent? That's what Mentor Joseph reminds us all the time. Coherence. We need to strive for coherence. It's impossible to embrace all this and continue to live a life that doesn't match it. But Publius Lentulus, in spite of his great reasoning capacities and the call that was so clear, evident, he left it aside. How many of us do the same? He was not reminded in the dream to build a new Roman Empire. He was invited in the dream to remember that in that life he was supposed to make a different choice in his inner empire. It's the hardest of it all. when I am invited in my house to love a child that was my former enemy, and I decide to find always the possible way to show that that child is wrong. That's vengeance. Covered up with the mask of my paternal, maternal authority. I'm allowed to reprimand you. I remember once seeing a playground. Virginia was 2 years old. Next to us, there were 2 moms, 2 children of a similar age. And one of the moms used to look at her kid, daughter, sitting in front of her and in front of her, with a lot of emotional baggage, saying, this one, there's nothing we can do. It's a lost case. And saying, I told her doctor, I think she's autistic. I looked at the kid and said, she's not autistic. She has no signs. He said, no way. But since you know it, I'm going to do the test. And he said she doesn't, but I'll try it again in the future. And Mentor Joseph said, you see what the animosity from the past is revealed right now? Now she has authority to avenge that spirit. How many parents do this and spank their children? If they don't spank physically, they put them down, instead of encouraging them and raising them up to the next level, making them feel less loved. But in their reincarnatory plan, it was said, you are going to give life to this new child. Embrace that spirit and love unconditionally. That's the task of parents, besides connecting their children to God. But we don't fulfill it. We may be great at our professions in any other way, but in that particular line, which was a major milestone for the soul in that reincarnation, to be achieved, I fail. Repeat the course. But God loves us, and we'll see later in the day and life goes on, that if we fail as a parent, maybe in the afterlife, right along, we may be given an opportunity to start making it up. We'll see. Paloma is going to tell us later, right? So for us, it's an opportunity to see in this 2,000 years ago, it's not only his life, but to remind ourselves, if Publius Lentulus received the awareness, the reminder through a dream, we may as well be receiving it. And as a child, or filled with pride, ego, selfishness, we're just like, no, I'm not going to give it all up. The world thinks this is the best, but is it your pathway? Professionally, family-wise, socially speaking, in your community, etc. Of many lessons in this book, we see that they have to travel, and they travel. Okay. You know, our computer is so beautiful. It likes to play tricks on us. They travel, they go. The family stays. The friends and the other ones go. Family stays. In the pathway, their expiation continues because the daughter is already sick. And then Hebrew man comes and casts a stone that hits Livia. Senator Publius Lentulus comes with that authority, punishes the man and sends him to prison. His father, André de Gioras, comes to Publius Lentulus and asks for forgiveness. Another call here. in that piece of the story is another reminder for us. His reincarnatory plan receives another reminder. He goes to his office and thinks, I think I was too harsh. I'm going to, after talking to the father, he goes to his office, but he doesn't show it to the public, because to the public he keeps showing. He needs to teach people a lesson so they never forget. Right? And he knows he is a reincarnation of his great-grandfather, who was a senator, who reprimanded many people, killed many people in the name of authority. He knows he failed in abusing his authority, and yet, in the name of his authority, he sends that man to jail. The father comes asking for forgiveness. He doesn't disclose, I'll think about it. He simply says, if he was sent to prison, maybe it was the right thing to do. But then he goes to his office and thinks. Of course, he was not alone. He's receiving constant reminders. Are you sure? Weren't you too harsh? And he says, yes, I was. Check it out. If that boy is still in prison, free him up. Too late. He escaped. He escaped away. Saúl de Gioras escaped. Later, he was found, sent to slavery. But nobody knew it, because there was no internet, no tracking of the prisoners. Not, they have a beautiful empire, but it was not like all the. If nowadays people don't know who the children of the immigrants were separated are, imagine nowadays. Imagine back then. The same abuse 2,000 years apart. The same abuse of authority, and we have to say it because it's a social matter, and it matters to us. It's not a political matter. We spiritists do not vouch for the separation of the families of any immigrant. It's barbaric. It's barbaric. It's just a repetition of millennial mistakes that are represented in this book, and we're yet repeating it. Besides all the human rights that we have abide in this country and in the world with the United Nations. Where are our human rights being respected here? Why do us as Americans are valued more than any other people in any other country? It doesn't match what is written in the Declaration of our Independence, where we made ourselves equal towards everyone before God. It doesn't match. We're being incoherent, committing crimes in the name of our self-defense. We as citizens have a voice, and we don't approve of it. Just public lentas, in the name of authority, sending people away, separating families. The father comes begging for the release, and he doesn't show any compassion. Another reminder, do not wait to show compassion sometime later. Forget this vain pride we have inside of ourselves. Show it right away to your kids, to your spouse, to your colleagues, Because if we don't, it's going to be too late. And that's one of the main messages in this book. Learn to show your positive emotions without pride and selfishness. He is going to pay heavy price for not being able to show the compassion he felt in his office in front of the man who had his son taken away. Because André de Gioras leaves that encounter and swears from that day on to avenge Publius Lentulus. Publius Lentulus goes to his office and André de Gioras doesn't mean anything any longer to him. But for André de Gioras, Publius Lentulus became the best enemy. I don't say worst, the best, because now he's going to dedicate his life, his best efforts, to avenging them. And while his son, who is enslaved elsewhere, has the same plan. And ends up being sold as a slave to Publius Lentulus' best friend in Rome, Senator Flaminius. It's almost like a joke. Jerusalem and Rome. It's like back then, without the means of transportation and make everything easy, it's like somebody here in China. Or farther, maybe the moon. It's as if like nothing is going to happen. You wish. You end up precisely in the address of your best friend. And you don't know that your best friend is trying hard to change your mind regarding, because he notices in some of Saúl de Gioras' conversations that he doesn't like Publius Lentulus. He doesn't disclose why. He tries to say, no, but he's a fair man, he's just. He doesn't change himself. And while André de Gioras is so close to the father, is close to Publius Lentulus, the son is far away, but in the best friend's house. This is a real account, showing to us that we can't escape our fate that we create. That the people that sometimes we said a word and they resented me may turn to be the ones who will be. I remember once somebody saying, oh, Vanessa, because you're trying to do the Spiritism in English back in 2002, not 2,000 years ago, but it's coming close to it. Like, oh, I spent a year waking up every day feeling angry at you. The person in California, and we were here. I woke up every day feeling angry at you because you're doing Spiritism in English. I was like, wow. And you're Spiritist, you're sure? I didn't say anything bad about your mom. Are you sure? Because you're kidding me. And to date, there are people who are angry. Worst of it all, Spiritists. Do we have to say it? Of course we do. Because Jesus was transparent amongst those who proclaimed to believe in the same thing. He wouldn't say it to the ancient Romans because they didn't care. But to those who really worked for it, he said, this is the reality. And he said, one day I'll send you the promised consoler that tell you everything and the things that I can't say now. Spiritism comes, there is no longer a veil. And we have to live transparent lives. And for those who still wear the t-shirt of Spiritism and create slander intrigues, competition, and spite, the price we're going to pay for it is harder than seen by Publius Lentulus. Because now we know better. Dare to be the good, but don't dare to stain the most pure plan that Christ has placed on earth. We can feel it. Like we almost failed Christianity. This was. Forgetting about life like many do. Well, life goes on and he's received by Pontius Pilate. And as the administrator of the Roman Empire in Judea, and there he's received by his uncle and the frivolous, slanderous, terrible Fulvia, who creates a plot against Publius Lentulus and his wife. She is married to a man who is the senator assistant to Pontius Pilate, who is married to Claudia, who is her sister. And she becomes a lover of Pontius Pilate. Daily we hear accounts of such things today. Sisters, brothers. And she's so jealous that Pontius Pilate he falls in love with Livia, though Livia doesn't give any reason for it. That she's so envious of that she creates a terrible plot against Publius Lentulus and Livia Lentulus. She's not even, you see Flavia she has leper. She's not even compassionate towards the child of theirs who is sick. On the contrary, she feels repulsion, doesn't allow the cousin to play with Flavia, and in spite of it all. So how often we think that our diseases will be shielding ourselves from the envy of others, that people will understand our difficulties. Only those who are already heart opened will be able to do so. These, we don't need to pray that they are going to understand it, because they already wish us well. But the ones that don't wish us well, they rarely will feel sorry for us because we're sick, or somebody in our lives is sick. They will always find a way to sing that sickness away, like Fulvia being punished by the gods. How many people nowadays are like this? The child got sick. I know. It's a lesson for them. And I hear spiritists saying this, as if that exists. You see how we're so close to that time. Emmanuel was right when he wrote it. We're closer to what they were living at Jesus' time than we imagined. That's why we need to read these books, to see ourselves and see, Mamma mia, I need to change myself. I'm brutal, cruel. To think that somebody is getting sick because they're being punished. No disease is a punishment. It's a blessing, because we're expunging only those who are strong enough can be able to handle, are able to handle those moments of expiation. God only gives those tests to those who can handle it. We can only imagine if Fulvia had a sick daughter. She wouldn't be able to handle it. But she had a daughter that was sick in the other way. The reincarnation of a sex addict like herself, who cheats on her husband with the guard, with the administrator, and wouldn't we do the same? Or haven't we done it, right? And if we haven't done it physically, as the Gospel according to Spiritism says, maybe we've done it in our thoughts. And Kardec is so daring at his time, in 1864, publishing the Gospel according to Spiritism and titling Adultery by Thought. To all those Puritans who cast a stone at anybody, but in the depth of their homes, they're watching porn, they are having online sex. It exists. And I won't say more because this is just the easy part of it. We won't talk about pedophilia, we won't talk about orgies, etc. But people who in the back of religious temples, I think that's the worst, abuse children. They preach a mess, and at the back of the temple, they're abusing children. Heinous crime. We won't say the name of religions, but not only it's not restricted to Christianity. Recently, more and more cases coming to surface of other religious settings where sexual harassment is just a natural thing. The gurus. And people who are around, lured by being loved, and they are embraced in that sexual harassment, sexual abuse. We see that the sick mind of both Pontius Pilate, sex addict, and Fulvia, they only see that in their minds, whereas Publius Lentulus and Livia are being welcomed in the most unfriendly way, we would say, pressured by these minds that are not compassionate and very selfish. To the point that one day, Fulvia, as the aunt of Publius Lentulus, dares to slander Livia because she saw Livia talking to Pontius Pilate. She comes and says, "Your wife is having an affair with Pontius Pilate," and drops the first seed of slander. And she says more. One day I'll show it to you. Publius then, if it's not enough to have a sick child with leper at the time, moving to a new country, to a new area, moving to a new culture, moving to a new setting, he receives that blow of life deep in his pride. Oh my gosh, I'm being cheated on. He doesn't believe. He's enraged. Olivia comes, soothes him with the harp, singing a poem that he wrote when he was young. Aha! Another important reminder for all of us. Pause. Some people say, how do I know what I need to do in this life? Be your own scientist. Research about yourself. Write down the things about your childhood. Investigate about yourself. When he was young, he wrote poetry. So he was not this cold-hearted man that people portray 2,000 years ago. So when he was invited in that reincarnation, because he asked for forgiveness, and was asked to open new doors for humility and fraternity, he had his soul already prepared for it. He was open, he was already sensitive to affection, to a new way of feeling about life. Because poetry, as Leon Denis says in the book Spiritism in the Arts, is like music. Right, Isabella? It's like music. He was a senator, but whom in the childhood cultivated that way of feeling about life. So he was permeable. In a first pass you think he's not prepared. But when Emmanuel discloses the details, you see he already has. He is a conflicted soul. Aha! That's what psychology says to us. When we're in conflict, we are a step away from changing our road because we are at a crossroads. Conflict. It's unsettling to be in conflict, but it's good because it's a sign that we're about to make a new pathway, to enter a new pathway if we decide so. He was conflicted. He had this impulse of compassion but couldn't display it in public. He had the evidence that he needed to change himself, but he was afraid of being different, of not being understood, being ostracized. He had this openness to feeling life in a more soothing way, and yet he didn't want to open it wide to everybody else, but he opened to his wife. He was a good husband. Unlike many men at the time who were brutal, he was loving, caring. 2,000 years ago, my friends. It's a big development to be a good husband back then. Until he was suffering the slandering. When he suffered the slander towards his marriage, then he didn't make the right choice to hear his wife. Another lesson for couples in this book. Because he decides not to communicate. His pride says, well, if she did it, what should he do? Sit down and say, look, Fulvia came to me and she said you and Pontius Pilate are. Give her a chance, right? He couldn't do it because it was too much for his pride to even say it, to mention it, to contemplate it. But then you may ask, but why didn't she talk to him about Pontius Pilate harassing her? That's a different side of the story. Back then in their society, who had the power in the relationship? Men. Her role was to be submissive. So she did well. She fulfilled it. She said, if I do it, it's going to be a mess. But I'm going to handle it so I don't disturb him. Wow. Wow. She tried, but she found no room because his spousal authority in that culture didn't allow her to cross that boundary. But he had open doors to come and talk to her. He didn't. Again, he failed because of his pride, his ego. He could have solved easily in opening communication with her and establishing a partnership with her. He decided not to. Another lesson in this book for couples. Talk. And forget about my need to be the one who says the last word in the relationship, whether men or women. Because nowadays, depending on the culture, like in the United States, there's no such thing. Open communication both ways. Oh, I didn't want to tell. No. Now we have to say. Somebody's harassing me at work. Don't kill that person, please, okay? Don't do anything, but we need to pray and we need to join forces because this is happening. As hard as it is, we need to learn how to open that communication and work together. Another lesson, big lesson in this book. They could have saved a whole lot of headache there. Her life. Her life. If he had talked to her. But what does he do? He doesn't. Pause for a moment. If we go back, he is distracted with the disease. The daughter falls sicker. And Anna, who is a good servant, friends with Livia, who is the Christian force in the story that brings the awareness of Jesus to Livia, who begins to admire that prophet that is the Messiah of the Hebrew people, and to her seems to have so much reasoning in following him. She thinks it makes sense that we're all equal. She treats her servant as an equal friend, as a sister, not as an employee. Another lesson for us. In Livia, in this book, we find the true way of dealing with our employees equally. She never imposes herself on Anna. She respects her equally. But because Flavia hears of the stories of the master, she tells the father, I want the master, this prophet, this Messiah, Jesus, to heal me. Go to him. As a desperate father. Okay. Congratulations, he didn't do everything wrong. He went to the master. You wanna hear the encounter? Thanks to John DeRosa. We have the recording many years ago. It's at Cardiac Radio SoundCloud, so if you want to hear it again and again, just type in Cardiac Radio, Emmanuel meets Jesus, and you're going to hear the very encounter. Be prepared. If you want to turn off the light so we feel this is the climax of our understanding of this service.
The busy hours of the day slip away with the sunlight in the west, and as twilight poured out of its soft hues on the magnificent landscape, he left, pretending he needed to take a break, and stating he wanted to get to know the town's ancient fountain, one of the main attractions to outsiders. About 300 feet down the road, he met bystanders and fishermen who drew back and looked at him with undisguised curiosity. A whole hour passed as he pondered his anguish, lost in thought. An immense canopy of shadow had begun to settle over the entire region, filled with vitality and fragrances. Where would the prophet from Nazareth be at that moment? Mightn't the tales of his miracles and his enchanting magic over souls be a mere illusion? Wasn't it absurd to be looking for him on this road, disregarding the imperatives of social hierarchy? At any rate, he must be a simple, uneducated man, given his preference for Capernaum and fishermen. Giving free rein to the ideas flowing through his burning and distressed mind, Publius thought that a meeting with the master from Nazareth was highly unlikely. How would they understand each other? He had not been the least bit interested in a closer understanding of the dialect of the common folk. Jesus, of course, spoke Aramaic, commonly used in the Tiberias basin. Profound doubts spilled from his mind to his heart, like the shadows of twilight before nighttime. The sky at that time of day turned a wonderful dark blue, whereas the opalescent light of the moon had not waited for the night to set in. The senator felt his heart lost in an abyss of infinite conjectures, beating erratically in his oppressed chest. Conflicting emotions tormented the innermost fibers of his spirit. He was unaware that he had leaned on a stone bench covered in bramble. His mind wandered in deep thought. He had never experienced such a feeling except in that memorable dream he had related only to Flaminius. He recalled the smallest details of his earthly life as he had temporarily abandoned the prison of his physical body. He felt a profound ecstasy before nature and its marvels, unable to express his admiration and acknowledgement of the powers of heaven. Such was the cloister in which he had always confined his proud, unyielding soul. Sweet fragrances seemed to emanate from the gentle waters of Lake Gennesaret, to blend delightfully with the wild scent of the foliage. It was then as if his spirit were under the imperative of a strange general magnetism that he heard the light footsteps of someone who had come looking for that same spot. There, before his anxious eyes, stood a unique, unmistakable figure. It was a young man who displayed a gentle and indefinable beauty in his profoundly merciful eyes. Long and silky hair framed his compassionate face like brown strands tinged with the gold of an unknown light. A divine smile, revealing at the same time immense goodness and singular energy, radiated an irresistible appeal from this melancholy, majestic figure. Publius had no difficulty identifying this impressive individual, but sentiments unbeknownst to him until then stirred wildly in his heart. Not even his appearance before Tiberius in the grandeur of Capri had aroused such feelings. Burning tears streamed from his eyes, which rarely wept, and a mysterious invincible power made him kneel on the moonlit grass. He wanted to speak, but his chest felt heavy and suffocated. In a gesture of sweet, supreme goodness, the gentle Nazarene walked towards him like a materialized vision of one of the gods of his ancient beliefs. Lovingly placing his hand on his head, he asked him in an enchanting language, which Publius understood as perfectly as if it were the patrician idiom, indelibly etched in his soul the unforgettable feeling that the words were from spirit to spirit, heart to heart.
Why are you looking for me, Senator? It would have been better if you had come publicly and in broad daylight in order to learn once and for all the sublime lesson of faith and humility. But I have not come into the world to alter the supreme laws of nature. I have come here to meet your ailing soul.
Publius could not express his feelings, except for the copious tears of sorrow for his little daughter. The prophet, however, as if not needing to hear his unspoken words, continued.
No, I have not come to meet the superficial, proud statesman whom only centuries of suffering can lead to the bosom of my Father. I have come in answer to the pleas of a grief-stricken and oppressed heart. But above all, my friend, your sentiments is not what will save your leprous little daughter, forsaken by the science of the world, because your frame of mind is still selfish and human. Rather, it is the faith and love of your wife, for faith is divine. Only one ray of its powerful energies is enough to crush all the monuments of earth's vanities.
Profoundly moved and magnetized by this presence, it seemed to the senator that his soul was floating in a dream world. Such was the extent of the unknown and unexpected emotions flooding his heart. He wanted to believe that his true sentiments were now locked in an incomprehensible game of illusion.
No, my friend, you are not dreaming.
The master said kindly and compellingly, divining Publius's thoughts.
After many years of deviation from the path of the good due to your blatant wrongs, today you have come to the turning point for the regeneration of your entire life. It is up to you, however, to take advantage of it, either now or in a few millennia from now. If the unfolding of human life depends on circumstances, you must consider that they come in all forms, leaving it up to individuals to exert the power of will and sentiment in seeking to align their destinies with the goodness and love for their fellow beings. At this very moment, a glorious point in time has arrived for your spirit, if you can utilize your freedom to forever imprint it on your heart, turning it into a hymn of love, humility, and faith, in the not yet determined moment of redemption within eternity. But no one can impose an act that is against your conscience if it is your desire to spurn this blessed moment indefinitely. I have been the shepherd of human souls since the formation of the world. For many millennia, I have tried to reunite my stray sheep to bring their hearts the eternal joys of the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All the powers of your empire are quite tenuous, and all its wealth is paltry. The magnificence of the Caesars is an ephemeral illusion that lasts one day, because all wise men, as well as all warriors, are called at the right time to the tribunals of justice of my Father in heaven. Someday its powerful eagles will cease to exist under a handful of miserable ashes. Its culture will be transformed by the efforts of other workers worthier of progress. Its unjust laws will be swallowed by the dark abyss of these centuries of impiety. For there is only one law, and it will survive the ruins of human unrest, the law of love, established by my Father from the beginning of creation. Now, go home, aware of the responsibilities of your destiny. If faith has established in your house what you regard as bliss because of your daughter's recovery, do not forget that it represents an increase in your soul's duties before our Almighty Father.
Thank you, John, twice for the light, and Steve Shepherd. In this dialogue, Jesus is talking to us. This is the center point, chapter 12 of the book. There's much more story, but the good spirits want us to remain here as our reflection. Like what is led to us, we are at a moment, turning point in our lives. For our own regeneration. Regeneration is not going to happen one day based on a date. It depends on individual transformations. In this life, we are being asked, and we were given all the resources to travel the road less traveled. Livia did it. We won't say the rest of the story, but if you read the book, you'll see how she did it. A lesson of renunciation for everybody in family relationships. Anna did it, unlike her servant friend Semele, who betrayed the very boss and helped kidnap their baby, Publius Lentulus' baby. Just some highlights. Flaminius was a good friend to Publius Lentulus. His wife, at some point, misjudged Livia, but she was able to ask for forgiveness before she discarnated in that life. But it was too late for Publio, who spent more than 2 decades treating his Livia, his wife, as a servant because he firmly believed that she cheated on him and she didn't. At some point, when he gets to know of the master after Livia's passing, which was dramatic, and you can read in the book, like announced prophetically by Jesus, if you choose the other road, either one, it will be hard. Either one. We have this illusion that if we don't change, it's going to be easier. No. If we don't regenerate ourselves collectively or individually, there's love and there's justice. We can't escape. If I take this less traveled road, we're talking about the road of love. It's labor intensive, but it pays off. The other one is much easier, much more comfortable in a first pass, but hurtful in the next moment. When we choose titles versus being useful, working for money versus working for love, whether in your family, at work, less salary, but loving what you do. Many people are depressed and stressed. Choose the road more traveled. In a first pass, comfortable. Social Security, retirement, 401k, a lot of bonuses and perks, da-da-da, but cannot see your family, cannot enjoy, very stressful, a lot of entrance in the gossip meal, etc. So, mortgage, health insurance, retirement, love. Can we balance it out? Yeah. If we all walk the road more less traveled, love. Labor intensive, but usually well light. Faith, said Jesus to him, is able of changing it all. God is the only power. I remember at work at University of Maryland, in the economic crisis of 2008, many things changing. And all my colleagues desperate, like, oh my gosh, people are going to be fired. Vanessa, what do you think? I don't know. I believe in God, so only God knows. I'm going to stress myself. If I have to be fired, I'll be fired. If I don't, I won't. It doesn't depend on me. It doesn't depend on my boss. It depends on God. But they don't know. But we know. And I saw many people leaving. And some people would say, Vanessa, do you think you're going to be next? What's going to happen next year? I don't know. Year after year. 18 years passed by, and I saw many people leaving. People who thought they would stay. And I would leave. Did I do anything? No. Mentor Joseph said, the day you have to leave, you leave. And I was like, when is that? Because I'm already in Virginia. Virginia's already born in Virginia. I need to be there. She was almost 2 and said, now, December 2014, now you're free. You can go. And I was able to disclose. But for us, we're just ordinary. It's not that hard, and I'm saying by myself, not because I know better, just saying, we don't have superpowers to just believe this road less traveled. Talking about our anniversary of the 12th anniversary of the center. From the first vision when we were at the University of Maryland, asking us to open the cell here, to the many places we moved from, libraries to holistic clinics to a Persian school, until we were granted the opportunity to have this headquarters in 2011. It took 4 years, hard, intense. When we opened, many people didn't understand. You see, we're not doing anything for ourselves. But we have an obligation, as Jesus said to Publius Letras. We don't regenerate ourselves alone. This is where Spiritism comes and debunks this mere spirituality that is being cherished around the world. Where we learn with Spiritism, we only grow spiritually, religiously together. So we don't practice mediumship alone. Chico Xavier, like Allan Kardec, worked in a group. Allan Kardec was not self-sufficient. He understood he needed the mediums. And it was hard. You watch the movie that was just made in Brazil, one day it's gonna come here, and you feel the intensity, contextualizing to the time. It was hard, and we thank to Allan Kardec's courage and his humility, unlike other thinkers of his time who worked alone and put their name first. With all the respect, William James, Camille Flammarion, and many others, Alexander Aksakov and others, if you're studying the spirits are taking the lead, not you. And Kardec understood it and named it Spirit's Book, the Book of the Spirits, not mine. The revelations are not Kardec's. And we see spiritists nowadays who are writing their books, and unlike Kardec, unlike Chico Xavier, are placing themselves first, before the message. In Spiritism, we cannot go back to that fallacy. It's precisely the dialogue between Publius Lentulus and Jesus, reminding him we need to change our lives. If we choose comfort, justice will come next. In a disease that we could have skipped if we were doing more good. Yesterday, during the night, after talking to a friend in the middle of the night, right? I received an email from a friend in Brazil sharing a beautiful message by Brother X. I shared with a few friends until we translate it in English and then we can share with the world. But Humberto de Campos reveals to us through Chico Xavier the strategy of the forces of darkness. There is a meeting in the spiritual realm that he's reporting. Real, as Virginia says, real. Not fictitious. Of inferior spirits of the dark forces who are creating plots against spiritists, specifically said by Humberto de Campos. And they unite with the leader of the group and they start reporting to the boss. I killed a few of them, so they won't do the good. The boss said, you did a big mistake. Because by doing this, you just created martyrs. Oh, I had a better strategy. I made she work so hard that her husband would give up on her and abandon her, take the children away from her, claiming she was a fanatic. Why did you do this? Now she's becoming a martyr before everybody. She's going to have more impact. And then they start reporting their strategies until one comes and says, boss, you're going to laugh at me. You may not believe it, he says. But I understood that persecuting them makes them become more powerful. So then I decided to come through a crack in their lives. And they asked, what is it? I said, well, I observed that when they are tired, if you just enhance it a little bit, they take a longer rest. They don't go back to work. Work in the sense of practicing spiritism, being a volunteer. Really? And he said to everybody, just shoo away. Tell me more about this strategy. He said, by doing so, I prevented 80 spiritist workers from continuing their work. You know how? Travel more. You deserve more vacation. Get to know more restaurants instead of volunteering, instead of studying. And by making their free time more restful, preventing the spiritist workers from actually engaging their works. He said, masterful. Let's continue it. And Humberto de Campos discloses to us at the end of this message that he felt that tiredness at some point in his spiritual life. He talked to a superior spirit, and the superior spirit said to him, amongst other things, we don't know where is the fine line between resting and laziness. That's why we never stop. Never. Never. Emmanuel always reminded Chico Xavier, you're tired, work more for the benefit of others. You're sick, work more. There is a message by Emmanuel, by Mei repeating. Because if you stop, God knows the connections we'll make. It doesn't matter where, but somewhere we need to do the good. And that's precisely Jesus calls through Publius Lentulus to all of us today. Especially in this more intimate meeting, not so intimate because we're connected to the world, but calibrating ourselves in our own commitment, because in this room we have in two realms workers of the last hour. My friends, it's not the first time we've been called. We no longer have time to say next reincarnation. For us who have enough knowledge, another time may not come so easily. Like our dear Valdo Vieira, he decided to jump out of the boat. And Emmanuel said it's gonna take him 1,500 years to receive the same opportunity. What's gonna happen in 1,500 years? Only God knows. Suffering is a sure thing. Comfort has a price on earth. Let's be uncomfortable physically, but comforted in the heart. Because the promised consoler came to comfort us in the heart. But he asks for our hands, for our feet, for our mouth, for our embrace. May we rest less and work more, and have the courage to work and to ride in this road less traveled. This is the message of Emmanuel to us in the book 10,000 years ago. Shall we, friends? We're gonna wrap up with one song. I won't ask our friends because we have professionals here. Greg Palma, who arrived. Thank you very much. We will introduce you to him soon after this service. Isabella Silvestre, who are here. But we'll allow you to still warm up as I'm going to show to you, since we're calling the Master, feeling His presence throughout the day in our services. Let us remind of that day when He dared to incarnate in that holy night, unique night. We're going to show to you a music clip.
Noite igual não haverá nesse mundo, e o céu não brilhará outra vez igual. Dia de festa, anjos cantando, é Natal, nasceu Cristo, o Mestre irmão, para mostrar que no coração há lugar para todo irmão. Ó mestre irmão, por nascer entre nós a cada dia que vem, junto com o sol, trazendo paz e esperança de ver outra noite igual.
Holy night, never will men see the sky so bright. We'll never see anything alive. It's time to celebrate. Holy night, angels keep singing. Christmas night, we now have Jesus, and He has come. He'll show the way to His holy heart. He is bringing new life to everyone, no matter who they are. He's the one. We thank you, Jesus, oh chosen one. From now on, you'll be born to terror survives the come each and every day to bring us peace and the hope we can see one
So now we close our eyes, feeling the presence of the Master and the multitude of spirits who are learning as we're learning together. Generals, politicians of the beyond, deeply connected to the hearts of the American lands, being also invited to follow a new course, and we pray to you, dear God. May we choose peace on earth as we, recommended by your divine representative, Master Jesus, our governor, are being invited to be of goodwill, making an effort to choose love, fraternity, and allowing you to take care of justice. It's not on us to enforce justice, but to protect. To raise the flag of our inner freedom of prejudices. May the vibrations of the Declaration of Independence that came from your beautiful sacred heart, dear Jesus, radiate sweet and certain invitation to the hearts of all. We thank you today and always. Count on us, and so be it. Let us now wait for Paul and Paloma, who are distributing the water as our remedy.